Hi guys! Hi! Way better. Awesome. So we're so excited that you're here and that all your families and friends and everybody's here. This is an awesome day for Odyssey. We have with us Coach Tony DiCicco.
Thank you.
Chris said last night to your parents if there was a Mount Rushmore of just soccer, that Coach DiCicco's face would be the first one on it. Does everybody know what Mount Rushmore is? Yeah. So he's a pretty important guy for U.S. soccer. He was the U.S. women's national team coach, and he compiled a record of 103, 8, and 8. He won 90% of his matches. Pretty awesome, right? Yeah, he led the U.S. women's national team to their first ever Olympic gold medal. And he led the U.S. to win the 99 Women's World Cup championship. And I got to work with the women's national team during that World Cup in Foxborough, so pretty awesome. And we're so excited that he's here. He is in the National Soccer Hall of Fame. He was the head coach for the U20 women's national team, where they won the World Cup. So he has won 2 Women's World Cups and a gold medal. He is the only coach in the United States to win a Women's World Cup, Olympic gold, and an under-20 Women's World Cup, which makes him still today the coach with the most victories. He holds the record. And
thank you.
And he is also the founder and CEO of Soccer Plus. And Soccer Plus camp happens at Colgate University. I know a lot of you have been there before, and it's happening again this summer. And those flyers got handed out on the way in, so you can see Coach again this summer at Colgate. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Coach DiCicco.
Thanks, Claire. Can you guys hear me all right? Am I on a mic now? All right, so you guys can hear me? Yeah. Okay. So I won't keep you too long because I know you're sitting out here in the sun, but I want to talk about how some players reach their goals, because all you guys want to be good players. You probably have some dreams. How many here want to play in the Olympics someday? Okay, how many want to play college soccer? Yeah, you all have pretty big dreams, and that's important. I'm a big believer in dreaming big, okay? But the truth is that a lot of players have big dreams, but only a small group reach those dreams. And why is that? So let's talk about that a little bit. The first thing, and it's something I told your parents last night, is talent is not enough. I am sure there's tremendous talent right out here in front of me. Fantastic talent. But it's not enough. It's a great thing to have, but when you get to be my age or your parents' age, you'll find that there was a lot of talented people that never achieved anything. Because in addition to talent, what do you think you need? Who has an idea? Yes?
Leadership.
You need some leadership, mostly to lead yourself, okay? Because there's a lot of decisions you have to make. I like the way our sports psychologist, Dr. Colleen Hacker, when I was coaching the Olympic team and the World Cup team, players like, have you heard of Mia Hamm? And Christine Lilly and Julie Foudy and Brandy Chastain. Well, when I was coaching those players, Colleen would say, everything you do, every action you do was either going to make you a better player, make our team better, or it was going to undermine what we were trying to achieve as a team and undermine what you were doing individually. In other words, every decision you made was going to make you better or was going to hurt you. It wasn't going to just sit out here in limbo, in neutral someplace. It was going to make you better or worse. So you have to be able to lead yourself. We'll speak about leadership a little bit more. What else? What are the other things beyond talent do you think you need to achieve your dreams? To play college soccer, to make your high school team, to play in the Olympics, to be on the national team. What do you think? Yes? Oh, I like that one. Determination. You've got to, what I call that is you've got to create your action plan. So you have a dream. How many of you have written down your dream? No. Write it down. No, that's not uncommon. I talk to players. Most don't, but I did have a player. Her name is Tiffany Roberts. In fact, I moved her when she was in high school. I moved her from Northern California to Florida because we were training for the Olympics. She's now the head coach of Virginia Commonwealth University. And after she won the Olympics, she brought out a picture she had done when she was like 6 or 7 years old, and it had her with a soccer ball and a gold medal, and it had her also as a gymnast and a gold medal. Well, she never was the gymnast, but she was a soccer player. She literally dreamed that and drew a picture of it. And this is before women's soccer was even admitted into the Olympics. Having big dreams and then writing down, in her case, she drew the picture, is a pretty powerful thing. So talent isn't enough, okay? What else? Determination, leadership, what else do you think you need? Give a guess. Yes.
A positive attitude.
Oh, I like that one too. A positive attitude. Because you know what? We're going to make mistakes. Is anybody here not human? No, because we're humans. So if we're all humans, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So you've got, and I know that sometimes you guys are really hard on yourself. So the ball comes rolling across the front of the goal. You strike it, it goes wide of the goal, and now you're really angry at yourself. You're not happy. I never score that goal. And it's hard, but you've got to say things like, I'll be better next time. I'll be better next time. Because you know what? If your teammate does that, are you going to run up to your teammate and yell at him?
No.
No, you'll probably say, don't worry about it. Get it next time. But when it happens to yourself, you're pretty hard on yourself. You've got to have a positive attitude, especially with yourself. So let's take a look at some of these things. The first thing is leadership. I wrote down some notes here. Let me just make sure I'm kind of following here. All right, the first thing is, with leadership, you got to be able to lead yourself. That means it's about decision making. And you guys at your age, decisions are a little bit easier. As you get a little bit older, you high school kids out there, you know, the high school guys are standing over there. They don't want to be associated yet with this, but, you know, their decisions are a little bit more difficult. You high school girls, your decisions are a little bit more difficult. But if you really want to achieve what your dreams are, you got to make good decisions. You've got to lead yourself, okay? And I had the great privilege of coaching players that did this every day. Every day. So, you know, Mia Hamm was a fantastic leader. And here's how she led. She wasn't a leader that, you know, kind of cheerleaded the group together. She wasn't commanding players to do this. The way she led was when the press would come up to her and say, what's it like to be the best player in the world? And she was the best player in the world when I was coaching her. And she would say something like, I'm not the best player in the world. If I could run all day like Christine Lilly, or if I could pass the ball like Michelle Akers, or if I could lead the team and organize a team like Carla Overbeck or Julie Foudy on the field, then I might be the best player in the world. I'm a player that plays on the best team in the world. Now, as a coach, you know, sitting next to her in a press conference, I couldn't be happier, because what she was doing was deflecting all her praise back onto her team. So what's the message when a young stud comes into that national team? It's not about her, because it's not about Mia Hamm. It's about the team. To me, that's wonderful leadership. The problem with leadership, it's not always positive. And you will experience this. You may experience it in school. Some leadership is negative. But these people have a lot of charisma. They are leaders, and they kind of draw you in. And then you're kind of going down this path of negative leadership, of things that aren't going to help you, aren't going to help your team, aren't going to help your classmates, your school, whatever it is. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people, but they lose their way sometimes. And I've had a situation like that when I coached the under-20 national team. And I came into this team, and it was, you know, obviously the best 18, 19, and 20-year-olds in the country. They were missing one player. You may recognize her name, and we went out and found her, Alex Morgan. Do you recognize that name, Alex Morgan? She wasn't on the team when I took over that team, and I think I thought we needed something, and I went out and looked and talked to coaches, and eventually we found Alex Morgan, and we brought her into the team, and then she had a great World Cup for us, and now she's doing awesome with our national team. But I did have a leader on that team, tremendous player. She was my leading scorer, but she was really, really negative. I'm not going to use her name. told the name to your parents last night, and she's on our national team now. And she plays in the league. I think she just played up at Western New York a few days ago on another team. But she was really negative, and it got to the point where I had to cut her because everything I was trying to do to build the team, she was undermining it with negative statements, with intimidating her teammates. You know, somebody would make a pass and miss her and go out of bounds, and she'd yell at that player, and it just wasn't positive. And eventually I just told her that I needed to cut her. I love what she did on the field, but with her leadership, I didn't think we could win when we went down to Chile in the World Cup. And once I cut her, and she wasn't happy, but the good news is when I was coaching professionally 2 or 3 years later and she was a free agent, she came back and played for me. So I think she realized, bless you, I think she realized that I helped her. I helped her with her attitude. Anyway, the bottom line was once I got rid of the best player, or I shouldn't say the best player, but our #1 scorer on the team and one of our best players, once I got rid of her, the team came together unbelievably. All the positive leaders now were able to really take hold. And when we went down to Chile, we were a different team. We were good. We dominated everyone. And we beat, in the final, we beat North Korea. And let me tell you, folks, North Korea are an angry people. They are not happy, okay? You know, in the game of soccer, somebody goes down and you kick the ball out of bounds because somebody on the opponent's team went down. Well, when one of their players went down and my players kicked the ball out of bounds, we expect them to throw it back into us or throw it into a teammate who knocks it to our goalkeeper and gives us possession, but they didn't do that. And, you know, I jumped up and the fourth official came over and said, don't knock the ball out of bounds. They haven't given it to anybody all game, all tournament long. And at the end of the game when we won 2-1, and Alex Morgan scored a goal and Sidley LaRue scored a goal, Sid's also on our national team, and I went over to shake their hands. The 3 coaches saw me coming and they just turned and walked in the other direction. So they're not a happy people. But that team, less one of our big stars. This girl was Herman Trophy winner. That's the best collegiate female player in the country. I had to get rid of her, and that made our team better. So there is negative leadership out there, and I have to tell you this, and especially you girls, because I see it more on girls' teams than I do on guys' teams. See, the bottom line is women are more evolved than guys. Guys, we're just blunt instruments. You know, we don't even have to like each other, but if you're a good player, fine. I'll pass you the ball because you're a good player, but off the field, I don't even like you. It doesn't matter. Women are different. Women have to kind of like each other off the field and have a relationship off the field to maximize their efforts on the field. Now, there's not a lot of difference between elite players, men or women, but that's one of the differences. So I noticed that sometimes on female teams that the same players, when you say, okay, match up, we're going to knock balls back and forth together, the same girls always match up. Now, on my teams, I don't let that happen, especially like a club like Odyssey where players are coming from different towns. I'll yell out, get in threes, make sure you get in a group with people you don't know that well. Let's learn about our teammates. So you guys have to make a conscious effort to do that. But leadership is incredibly important. I'll tell you one more leadership story. How you guys doing? You need to stand up and stretch or anything? No? Okay. By the way, I gave your parents a true-false test last night. They did pretty good. Now, one of the questions was, it is very important for you to, on the way home from a game, ask your child, what did the coach say at halftime and after the game? And it's obviously, the answer is false. You don't need to ask that question. So if they ask that question, you can bring them up on it. Let me tell you a really good leadership story, and I told this last night to your parents. When we were in the World Cup in '99, and many of you guys weren't even born in 1999, so that kind of makes it a little bit of ancient history, but we were playing in Washington, D.C. The stadium was full with about 65,000 people. And do you know Brandy Chastain? You recognize that name? Okay, Brandy was my left back, and she was chasing a ball back towards our goal. you know, a little bit farther away from this. And she was looking over her shoulder. This German player was chasing her, and she passed the ball back to Brianna Scurry as a back pass to the goalkeeper. The only problem was Brianna Scurry had called for the ball and was sprinting out to collect it. Brandy didn't hear her. They didn't make eye contact, and sure enough, Brandy scored an own goal. And we went down to Germany 1-0. Now, this was a very good German team. In fact, Germany won the next 2 World Cups. That's how good they were. And this was in the quarterfinals. So we ended up winning that game, but it was a really hard game. After the tournament, and if you remember, Brandy Chastain scored the winning penalty kick in the Rose Bowl in front of 90,000 people in the Rose Bowl, and we won against China. Well, after the tournament, we were doing a clinic, something like this. We were out on the West Coast, and one of the young girls raised her hand, and we were taking questions, and she asked Brandy, "What was your favorite moment in the World Cup?" So, I mean, scoring the winning penalty kick in front of 90,000 people, I thought that was going to be an easy answer. But that's not what Brandy said. What Brandy said was, she thought for a second, and she said, "My best moment and my worst moment were about 20 seconds apart. My worst moment is when I scored an own goal, and we were down to the really good German team 1-0. And I was walking back upfield. The best thing of the World Cup happened to me. And that's when our captain, and our captain's name was Carlo Overbeck, ran up to me, looked me in the eyes, and said, Brandy, we have 85 minutes left in this game. We will get that goal back, but we need you to play. Let's go." And to Brandy, she goes, "That snapped me back into the game, and that was the best thing that happened to me in the World Cup. Not scoring the winning penalty kick. The best thing that happened to her was that positive leadership from Carla Overbeck. Carla recognized that her player needed support. She needed to be compassionate, and she also recognized that if Brandy is hiding from the game because she made this catastrophic mistake, we can't beat this German team with only 10 players. We need all 11 players." And so she brought Brandy back in the game. And really the punchline is we're down 2-1 in the second half, and Brandy Chastain scores the tying goal. The left back, she was my left back. She scores the tying goal. And then my right back, Joy Fawcett, scores the winning goal against Germany. That is what positive leadership looks like. That's positive leadership. That's the difference between that negative leadership of the player I had to cut, that we couldn't win with her, and the positive leadership that kind of supported her teammate, and then that her teammate was able to score a goal and tie the game, and we went on to win. So leadership is incredibly important. We have an expression. We already talked about, because we're human, we will fail at time to time. We will make mistakes. We will fail on, sometimes maybe in the classroom. We'll fail on the athletic field for sure. But we have to know how to deal with failure. Here's my biggest concern: fear of failure. Fear of failure. Because there's players out there that, don't try as hard as they can because they have this fallback. Well, yeah, I wasn't able to do it, but you know what? I wasn't trying that hard. That, to me, is the biggest fear that we have to be concerned with. We want you to try hard. We know you're going to fail at times. We want you to be easy on yourself when you do fail, but to really go after it because we're human. So when I took over the national team, you guys ever hear of Anson Dorrance? Legendary coach at the University of North Carolina. He was the head coach of the women's national team when I took over. And the first World Cup we had was in Sweden. And we went there as defending World Cup champions. And we lost. We lost to a better Norway team. Fantastic team. It was a close game, 1-0. But in that loss, I saw two things evolve. The first thing was nobody pointed fingers. Nobody pointed fingers at the referee. Nobody pointed fingers at, we didn't get a chance to train on the game field because of the rain the night before. Nobody pointed fingers at me and said, DiCicco didn't coach very well. I didn't think I coached very well. Nobody pointed fingers at Mia Hamm and said, Mia Hamm's the greatest goal scorer in history, at least for a few more days until Abby Wambach might break her record. But she's the greatest goal scorer in history. She's got to score in the semifinals of a World Cup. Nobody pointed fingers at Mia. If you spoke to Mia, she probably would have said, I need to score in these games. Nobody pointed fingers at Brianna Scurry, our goalkeeper. even though there was this 6'3" Viking woman who headed the ball past her. But if you talk to Bri would have said, I need to get to that ball. I need to get to that corner kick. So that was the first thing that I saw. Nobody looked outward and said, that's why we lost. The coach was why we lost. Mia was why we lost. Everybody looked internally. And I think what they were saying and how I sensed in our upcoming trainings and everything was, I could have been better in this World Cup. I should have been better. I'm going to be better next year in the Olympics. That was the first thing that was really positive. The second thing that was really positive is sometimes when you fail, you can turn it around and use it as motivation. And the expression we have is failure as fertilizer. Failure is fertilizer. You kind of get how that works? Now, you don't want to fail, but if you fail, instead of pondering on you didn't get it done, can you use it as motivation? So all leading up to the Olympics, whenever I worked that team hard, and we'd be training hard, we'd be running, and, you know, they'd be bent over, waiting until the next challenge, and then somebody would say, remember Norway, and you'd see them straighten up, body posture would change, and they'd go after it again. So Norway, losing to Norway, which was our big rival back then, was motivation. So we played Norway in the semifinals of the Olympics. They had beaten us. They were the better team a year earlier. Now we're playing them in the semifinals of the Olympics. It was still a close game. It had to go to golden goal, and we won 2-1. But we were clearly the better team. We outshot them 28-8. And what was the difference? We used failure as fertilizer. I truly believe that. So the last thing I ever said to the team when I retired, we were out at Nike campus. Who knows where Nike campus is? Oregon, good. Because I noticed I'm wearing the Odyssey shirt under here, and I noticed it's Nike, so you guys should know where Nike is. The last thing I said to him, we were out there, we had a little dinner. I was retiring from the team. I said, remember these three things. Remember what it felt like to have the Olympic gold medal put around your neck, because that's a great feeling. And watching the flag being raised and listening to Star Spangled Banner. That is great motivation. Always remember that. Remember what it felt like when you won the largest sporting event ever for women in the Rose Bowl. And you're standing on the podium, and now you're Olympic champions and World Cup champions at the same time. Don't ever forget that feeling, because that's great motivation. And the third thing I want you to remember is that night in Gävle, Sweden, when the final whistle blew and Norway celebrated and we slumped to the ground in defeat. Don't ever forget that feeling either, because that is great motivation. And my challenge to you is turn your failures around. Don't be afraid to fail. Go after it. It's one of the biggest things I tell my players. Go after it. Try it. Because, like, I'll give you a perfect example. You guys work on, like, corvers and quick foot movements and take-on movements, right? Scissors and everything. How many of you work on that? Good. Just checking to see if you're awake still. But here's the challenge. If you don't try those in practice, if you don't try that scissors in practice, do you think you're going to try it in the game? Ain't going to happen. You got to try those things in practice. You know what? You'll try it, the ball gets stripped from you sometimes. But if you try it in practice, you will be successful, and then you'll have the confidence to try it in the game. Don't be afraid to fail. Play on your cutting edge. Okay, here's something for you. You need to know as players what your trademark ability is. And you might have more than one. What is it that defines you as a player? And let me give you some examples. Could be a player that has great fitness and just can get up and down the field. Could be a player that has great speed. It could be a player that's a great organizer, reads the game, can organize the team. Could be a player that has great touches of the ball. Or just as that player that's clinical in front of goal, always seems to be in the right spot at the right time to, a rebound off the goalkeeper, and that person's there to strike it into goal. Whatever it is, you need to know what your trademark skill is. So right now, reflect on, and you might have more than one, but you need to know that. Why do you think you need to know that? Who has an idea? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I'm a coach, and I only look for players with exceptional abilities. I don't care about their weaknesses. I care, but if I see somebody that has this quality up here, that to me is important. I don't want players that are kind of good in a lot of things that are at this level. I'd rather have a player that has this quality up here and maybe has this weakness down here. Because my job as a coach is to take this quality from this player, this quality from that player, this quality from that player, and to mesh them together like a puzzle so that all those high-level trademark skills complement each other. Does that make sense? So I look for speed. That was one of the reasons I had to look for more players. I didn't like the speed on that U20 team. It was a good team, so we need more speed up top. We went out and found Alex Morgan. She's fast. Speed doesn't slump. I love to coach speed. So if you're fast, make sure you maintain that, okay? But don't get, how many here are fast? Because I know we have fast players. Yeah. Okay, here's the problem with being fast. You never learn how to play. Because you can just touch the ball past somebody and run by them. See you later. But then you know what? In 4 or 5 years, that player you touch the ball by is going to be as fast as you. Can you play a different way? Can you set that player up? Keep the ball. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Now play, now go, get it back. So you're using your speed, but you're also using your soccer sophistication. That's the problem. I love speed. But Alex Morgan has a lot more qualities than just speed, and that's important to know. So know what your trademark skill is, because it's incredibly important. How you doing? Okay, everybody stand up. You guys play Simon Says?
I think so.
All right, who wants to play Simon Says? Quick. Okay, just take one step just to spread out here a little bit. Okay, everybody move, sit down. Everybody that moves, sit down. Simon didn't tell you to take one step and spread out. Yep. All right, everybody sit down. Oh, thanks. Simon Says sit down. We had an expression on the national team that was chemistry is a verb. Now, how many of you guys are taking, language arts and, being able to dissect the sentence and everything? All right, so is chemistry really a verb? No. Well, it depends how I put it in a sentence, but I say this team has great chemistry. What is it? It's a noun. But what we say on our team is chemistry is a verb. What we want to convey is that you need to make a contribution on your team. Here's a new player coming into the team. You need to go over there, welcome them onto the team. And that will happen with your club. That will happen with high school teams. A new player comes in. Or a freshman comes in and you're an upperclassman. Here's the scary thing. That freshman is pretty good and plays your best friend's position. Now what are you going to do? Guys are pretty good with this. Yeah, if he beats you out, he beats you out. Unlucky. Girls aren't so good with this, because your best friend's going to say, well, is she better than me? And you're going to say, no way. No, you're much better than her. But this young girl or guy might be really good. And what happens is sometimes she's isolated or he's isolated. That isn't making a contribution. Is that going to make your team better or worse? She's really good. She may or may not win playing time, but she's going to push somebody to make them better. And I love that about my team when I was coaching them, because I would bring in studs from, college players who were fantastic. And if you remember, Mia Hamm and Christine Lilly and Julie Foudy and Joy Fawcett and Brandy Chastain, they played, I think Christine Lilly played on the national team for 20 years. From like when she was 15 or 16 to 36 or 37. Unbelievable. But the great thing about them is when I brought in a young player, they would welcome them in. Hey, I'm Christine Lilly. Welcome to the national team. We know you're a really good player. If I can help in any way, let me know. Just go out and play your best. And that helped that player come in and play really well. But here's the punchline. Is that forced Christine Lilly or Julie Foudy or Mia Hamm to play better, to keep their position? You see how it works? You welcome the talent in, and now you got to work to keep your position. And that's why they played so long, because they had to keep evolving their game. Okay, so what I call it is the culture of your team. And the word culture in this way is kind of unwritten rules. So let me tell you about the culture of my national teams, and really all of them. One is fitness mattered. Fitness mattered. If you didn't value fitness and you came into the national team, and you could have been a very good player, but if you really were always on the borderline of barely fit enough, probably you were going to end up weeding yourself off the team. Okay? In fact, with that national team, all these fantastic players, the worst insult to your teammate, because we weren't always together. We'd be together for 2 weeks. We'd leave, go off into their own environments all over the country. Maybe next month we'd come together for 2 weeks. The worst thing you could do would show up to a training camp and not be fit. That was like an insult to your teammates. So when they left, they would come back at least as fit, maybe in a little bit fitter. So fitness matters. That was part of our culture. Fun was a big part of our culture. So they would go out and train really hard. I'd give them a water break. They'd get over to the water. They'd be laughing and kidding. When they had to come back on the field, they were serious again, but they always had fun on and off the field. That was really important to them. And they used to say, we can't take ourselves that seriously. You know, that was part of their culture. Finding a way to win. And if you think of our national team, how about our Olympic team last year against Canada? Down 3 times, and somehow in the semifinal of the Olympics, and somehow coming back and Alex Morgan scoring the head goal to win the game. Finding a way to win. That's always been part of our culture. And when I coached, it was part of our culture, and it still is. And it's just something that our teams have had both on the men's and women's side. Making a contribution to your team. Positive contribution is part of the culture. So you need to come up with the chemistry of your team, but you need to define what your culture is. What's important to you as a team? Is getting to training, to really making, not everybody can get to training every single time, but getting to training, is that important as part of our culture? Because if, you know, only 12 players show up on training days, it's hard for the coach to really put a team together when you have to play on the weekend. So you guys have to do that. I can't do that. It's up to your coach and you. But understand that the teams and the players that reach their goals have that quality. They have a culture, and it kind of is, as I said, all the unwritten rules that govern how they act. I always felt that I was a better human being when I was with the team, because we were kind of in this code of behavior, you know, very understanding, very compassionate. You know, it was part of the culture of our team. Okay, but it was also a lot of fun. Don't forget the fun aspect. Couple more points. You guys doing all right? Simon says do all right. I wrote a book. The title of the book was Catch Them Being Good. But what I find with players, and what I try to tell players, is catch yourself being good. Catch yourself being good. Catch your teammates being good. There's nothing better. I can say to, you know, one of my players, hey, that was a great pass, awesome pass, and that makes them feel pretty good. But when their teammate comes up to them and says the same thing, it's a bigger deal. Because when you praise your teammate, if you're a goalkeeper and one of your center back gets stuck in on a tackle and clears the ball, man, when they hear from you, that's just going to make them more committed the next time they have to do the same thing. So catch yourself being good, but also catch your teammates being good. Because confidence, how many here struggle with self-confidence sometimes? Yeah, we're human. So self-confidence isn't always like this. It's sometimes, you know, peaks and valleys. But self-confidence is an inside job. Coaches and parents should try to help you with your confidence. But ultimately, you're responsible for your confidence too. So what do you need to do? When I was a player, yeah, you know, back in the, 1500s, I was a player and I was a goalkeeper. And, you know, goalkeeping is mentally challenging because if you make one mistake, it could be a goal. And so when I trained, when I was getting into a big game and I know I had trained well, the expression I used to say to myself to raise my confidence is, you've earned the right to play well. Because I knew I trained well. I've earned the right to play well. And that would, you know, just give me that confidence and settle me. So, you know, that self-talk is important sometimes. But catch yourself being good and work on your own self-confidence. Because I know, I've been around players for many, many years, coached all levels. I've coached your ages here and your ages there. I had 4 sons, and I've coached at the highest levels. Mia Hamm struggled with self-confidence. You wouldn't think it, would you? Mia Hamm struggled with self-confidence. And, you know, we had to work with her on that. So if she wasn't scoring, she thought she was useless. And I'd say, no, you've got other things you can do. I mean, you're fit. If you're not scoring, can you really work on your defensive work? And she became a great defender as a forward. She would track players down. She would force mistakes and bad passes. So when she wasn't scoring, she had other ways she can contribute. Her passing was good. So, but we had to work with her on that. So I know that if Mia Hamm had trouble with confidence, pretty much all players have trouble with confidence at one time or another. Okay, last thing. The last thing, when I would have a pre-game and I'd have like a flip chart sheet up on the wall and all our set pieces and our keys for the game, the bottom, the last thing that was written was play hard. Because you can choose to play hard. Play fair. Because I think that's what Americans value in sport. We want players that are talented, that find ways to win, but ultimately play fair. We don't want cheaters on the field. We want fair players. Play hard, play fair, play to win. Because ultimately that's what the game is about. Doesn't mean we play every game to win at all costs. That's especially at the younger ages, but play to win. And then lastly, and in capital letters, I'd have fun. Have fun, because if you're having fun in this game, you will keep progressing as a player. You'll keep developing as a player. But if the fun leaves, you need to either speak to your coach, your parents, and find that fun in the game again. Because you'll stop evolving. You'll stop developing. Play hard, play fair, play to win, and louder. If it's not fun, it isn't soccer. Trust me on that one. Do you have any questions? Who has a question? Guys, what about a question back there? You guys got it all figured out, huh? It's all right. I've had 4 sons. That's why I coach women, I think. Go ahead.
Tony, could you address the issue of specialization and in ages of where they decide that soccer is got to play all year round, or mixing it up with different sports?
Yeah, really good question. Specialization. I don't believe in it, especially at the younger ages. Now, you might have your number one sport. Soccer might be your number one sport. But I believe in, if you're going to balance your musculature and also stay, keep mentally excited about playing soccer in this case, you need to do other things. At some point, probably as you come into high school, or at least, 13, 14 years old, you might start to specialize. Where, okay, this is my game and that's it. But if you're, 9, 10, 11, and you're trying to specialize in one thing, what happens is you're only using one set of musculature. And eventually that will create an imbalance, probably lead to an injury. And more importantly, or as importantly, by the time you're 15, you might be burned out in this game. So if you talk to my national team players, they played all sports. They played basketball. Now, soccer was their number one sport, but softball, they played everything. I played 3 sports in high school. I played 2 sports in college. So you need to keep that in mind. Now, there might be an exception to that, where this player knows what they want and this is it, but now their training has to encompass using other muscles and stuff, because otherwise it does tend to create an imbalance. You get an injury and you're kind of always using that same musculature. So that's my concern. And I have coaches that don't agree with that. They think we need to specialize earlier. I don't. I think, like at our club, my club in Connecticut, in the winter months, in the fall, soccer is the priority. In the winter months, you can do other things. We just want you to, keep soccer somewhere in your priority. But if there's a conflict between you and basketball, I'm not going to put you in the middle. You need to go to basketball, go to basketball. Let's keep your fitness up. Let's keep you training with the team as much as you can. But back in the spring now, we need it to be a priority. So that's kind of the way we address it. We try to make sure we leave room for other sports. Yes?
Do you think it's important for players to learn different positions on the field or stick to one?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We mentioned Brandy Chastain, right? And the question was, is it important to learn other positions? I can't tell you how important it is. And this is the coaches out here. When I start moving players around and I take my stud out of the center of midfield and I put her at right back or him at right back, we might not be as good. The player I put in there might not be as good today, but who knows down the road. Brandy Chastain once scored 5 goals for the U.S. national team. She was a forward her whole career. When she won, and she, after 91, she basically got cut from the team. When she called me back up to try to make the team again, I brought her into training camp. She did really well. I brought her into another training camp. She did very well. I said, Brandy, I'm going to bring you into residency, preparing for the Olympics. But if you want to start, the position I need is a left back. And she said to me, this is a forward. She said to me, I'll play anywhere. And then she became the best attacking left back in the world. Really, really important to you learn many positions, because when you're playing with your club team and you go to ODP or something like that, you may find yourself in a different position. If you feel totally lost in that position, it's not going to help you. But if you played that position before, you understand it, you know the key roles of that position, you'll be good. So I'm a big believer in most positions, and that includes even goalkeeper. So when I had like a U12 team, I would say, I'll be right with you, young lady. When I have a U12 team, I say, we're not going to have any full-time goalkeepers, but you're all going to play goalkeeper. So in reality of the 16 players, maybe 8 played in goal. But we just kind of rotated around. They played a half every 4 games or so. No big deal. And then eventually, somebody was good there. Their teammates said, you're so good in goal. And so we have 2 players on that team now. One has a goalkeeper. One has a full scholarship to Duke University. And one has a full scholarship to TCU, Texas Christian University. And neither of them were goalkeepers until they were like 13 or 14. And there's actually a 3rd girl on that team who came in a little bit later, and I'm helping her find a school, and she's very good as well. So play multiple positions. It'll help your game. Even though ultimately your skill set might be best in this position, learn all the positions. Yes?
How did you figure out you wanted to be a soccer coach?
How did I figure out I wanted to be a soccer coach? When I was your age, I loved sports. I loved all sports, and my dream was to be a professional athlete, and really it was to be a professional baseball player. But I wasn't good enough in baseball, and as I kept going, I had the chance to play soccer at higher levels, and I eventually was a professional soccer player. But even when I was in high school, I helped coach a youth team. When I was in college, I coached a junior high team, and so coaching has always been part of my DNA, I guess. So I've always, what it's about is, I think the team to me is kind of a sacred entity. Being part of a team is so special. So you're part of a team as a player, you're part of the team as a coach, and so that's how it evolved. Yes?
When you coached the women's national team, what was your one highlight, maybe your one goal? I remember how Brandy Chastain had them within 20 seconds of each other. What were yours when you coached them?
Oh, I had so many highlights. I mean, to me, probably the best, my highest coaching was in the 2008 U20 World Cup. Leading up to that, when I took over that team, it was in trouble. The team was in trouble, and because the college coaches weren't supporting it, because it was going to conflict with the NCAA tournament and everything. And so and then I had to cut 2 stars on that team. When it came together and we ended up winning, and for me to see those players that, you know, I had to convince players that playing for the USA was actually better than playing for UNC or the University of Virginia or UCLA. And believe it or not, those players bought into it, and they came. So when we won a world championship, and my thing to them was, how often in your life will you have a chance to be the best in the world? It's not going to come around, especially in a discipline like soccer, which is a world thing, you know. How often do you think you'll have that chance? And when these kids bought into it and came, and when we won the world championship in Chile, and the FIFA celebration was phenomenal, the look on their faces was probably the highlight, because they took the leap of faith, and they were rewarded. And then I had some low moments, obviously losing in Sweden after, you know, we were defending world champions and losing. I mean, I felt I let down a whole country. And, you know, or when a player got injured, you know, and she was going to miss the Olympics or something because of injury. Those were hard times as a coach. Or cutting players. If you talk to any coach, cutting a player is the hardest thing, because, you know, if you have a team of 18 players, everybody agrees on these 8. These 8 are on the team. And most agree maybe on the next 6 or so. They're on the team. But then that last group, there's difference of opinion, even between the coaching staff, and you're making that final decision. Keeping somebody off a World Cup team, keeping somebody off an Olympic team is a big decision. So those are kind of the lowlights. Yes? What was the question?
When you were little, were you in the U8s?
When I was little, was I in the U8s? When I was little, they didn't have any U8s. All we had was we had a pasture, and we would get a football or a soccer ball or whatever, and just, you know, it was different then. There was no cell phones. You didn't call up somebody, hey, let's meet here. You know, the kids just went outdoors, and somebody showed up there. Somebody looked, saw somebody else there, showed up, and pretty soon you had the neighborhood kids there, boys and girls, you know, U8s, U12s, didn't matter, and you just played. And it's a little bit different now. It's kind of like everything's organized. Sometimes they think you guys don't want to play unless your uniforms, you have all your uniforms on, the field is lined, there's nets on the goal, there's a referee, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes the best way to learn this game is to just get out there with a few friends and play 2v2 or 1 versus 1. And that's how many of your parents and I learned how to play the game. So yes, I was a U8 at one time. All right, last question.
What advice do you have for players who are looking to play in college?
Okay, good question. If you're looking to play in college, there's a couple of things you need to do. One is be proactive. And what I mean by that is don't wait for college coaches to contact you. What year are you in school? Junior. So you need to be contacting schools right now, okay? And because, look, there's 20 schools out there that are going to go after the youth national team players, et cetera, and they're going to go after blue chip players. And then there's, you know, 100 schools that need to go after good players, but they want to know players that are interested in their school, because they don't have to convince that player about their school. They're already interested. So it's really important that you do your due diligence and find out which schools you're interested in, and then visit those schools if you can, and contact the college coach, and, you know, get on their radar and let them know where you're playing. Let them see your schedule, and then, you know, they'll come, and then you can have those types of communications. Remember, they can't call you back until July 1st leading into your senior year, but you can contact them as much as you want. And don't be afraid if it's a big list to start, and then it can narrow down. But there's programs on the internet, and I think it's soccerboard.com, where you can go in there and it just asks you questions. Where do you want to go to school? Northeast, South, West, East Coast. doesn't matter. And you just put in the answer. You want to go to a big school, small school, you just put in the answer. You know, you keep putting in answers, and what's your interest in school? And eventually it keeps filtering down. And then when you say, okay, give me what you have, it might plug out 50 colleges, or it might plug out 20, depending on how many questions you answer to get down there. And then what position do you play? Midfield. Midfield, okay. You know, it is a good idea to get to a college camp. Like if you're really interested, get to a college camp. But some of them are good, and some of them are just cash cows. And, you know, they'll just say, like, I get a tweet from, you know, one of the big schools, and they go, we have 400 kids at our camp this week. Now, I wouldn't be advertising that, because if you have 400 kids at your camp, how many kids are you personally touching? You know, so sometimes it's just kind of a factory, and it's hard to get recruited in that environment. But there are some good college camps where you can get ID'd. Okay, we have now, Soccer Plus has a goalkeeper college ID program. We have one on the East Coast, which will be in Bloomsburg, PA, in June, and then we have one on the West Coast, which will be in Cal State Fullerton in July. So that college coaches can come and look at our group of goalkeepers. We'll probably have 20 or 30 at each site. And, you know, we'll give them a sheet on every goalkeeper, fact sheet, and now they'll have a chance to look and maybe recruit those goalkeepers. Next year, we'll probably do it with strikers and goalkeepers. So, but be proactive. Don't be afraid to contact a college coach. That's the best advice I can give you. All right, listen, you have all been very, very patient. And, you know, yesterday I got a real sense of the Odyssey Soccer Club, and it's a neat club because it's a community. There's a lot of support in the club from each other, from the families, from the volunteers, the coaches, and the administration of the club. So congratulations, because I think you've made a good choice. The philosophy of this club is good. It's about player development. It's about coach development. It's about teaching character traits through the game of soccer. Positive character traits. So that's very, very good. And for those of you, how many have been to a Soccer Plus camp? All right, great, thanks. We do 2 weeks in Colgate. As I told your parents last night, my philosophy that I use with my national team players or with the camp is we will challenge you, and then we will guide you to success. And whenever you have a challenge and then you feel good about meeting and dealing with that challenge, you feel good about yourself. And if there's a raise in your self-confidence, there's also a raise in your performance. There's a direct correlation between self-confidence and performance. So we have a lot of fun. Our culture is hard work, but fun. Consider Soccer Plus camps, goalkeeper school, field player academy, and we also are doing team training as well. Thank you very much for sitting and being patient. Enjoy your game if you have a game today or training, or if not, keep watching high-level soccer. That's important. Watch high-level soccer. You'll learn from it. Thanks very much.